services in support of agriculture and common agricultural policy, organized by the Horizon 2020 projects Envision, NIVA, eShape, Beacon, Dion, and EO Widget. My name is Manolis Tsandakis from ETAM SA Greece, and I am the Envision Project Exploitation Manager. Our event today has 4 parts, 4 sessions. First one, tangible outcomes from European projects. Second, CAP monitoring, and especially direct payments monitoring. Third, Earth observation services for agriculture. And fourth, looking into the future of Earth observation for CAP and agriculture. Let me first start with a few housekeeping information and rules. First, the whole event is being recorded. Second, for our speakers, a few minutes before your time ends, I will let you know so that we keep the time schedule as it is planned. Specifically for the 5 minutes presentations, I will let you know 1 minute before the end of your time. And for the 10 minutes presentations, 2 minutes before the end of your time. Also, I would like to ask all of the speakers to turn on the cameras during their session. And for our participants, regarding any comments and questions for our speakers, please use the chat. And the team of organizers will be providing the replies during the event, or afterwards we can send via email the replies. Last thing, we're going to have a 10 minutes break at 10:30 CET or 11:30 Eastern European time. And now, before we start our presentation, I must say that we are honored very much that we attracted more than 350 participants across the globe, I must say. And also we are honored very much that we have today Ms. Nicola Britta Holsten from DG Agri. Ms. Holsten is Deputy Head of Unit C1 on CAP Strategic Plans Coordination. Ms. Holsten, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Manolis. Good morning from Brussels. Thank you very much for having me. So thanks a lot for inviting me to this clustering event of the 6 European research projects, which is NIVA, Envision, eShape, Dion, Beacon, and EO Widget, on the topic of Earth observation. On behalf of DG Agri, I'm very privileged to be here and that I may deliver some opening remarks to you. So new technologies, and in particular Earth observation, play a central role in achieving one of the key mandates of DG Agri, which is the sound implementation of the Common Agricultural Policy, which we call in jargon the CAP, so maybe I will say CAP a little bit later on. Monitoring, controls, and evaluation are crucial elements here, and to address these, DG Agri has been using satellite data for the past 10 to 15 years. Please let me summarize the main 3 agri uses of Earth observation technologies. First, Earth observation data plays a role in yield forecasting and short-term production forecast and serves as input for the medium-term monitoring and evaluation of the CAP in member states. Second, Earth observation data forms an essential input to precision farming technologies. It is clearly in DG Agri's interest that research and innovation further explores the opportunities new technologies offer to increase the performance of the sector. And third, Earth observation data plays a very important role in CAP controls to ensure that those agricultural activities and conditions which can be monitored with satellite technologies are in line with the aid declarations submitted by farmers claiming CAP support. May I enter a little bit more in detail on DG Agri's use of satellites for controls? Here, this classical approach makes use of very high spatial resolution satellite imagery, acquired once or twice a year at a non-negligible cost to control a small sample of farmers. And you hear there are two elements in this: non-negligible costs and a control of a small sample of farmers. So as an alternative control choice, since 2018, member states have the option to use free Copernicus Sentinel satellite imagery for the systematic and regular monitoring of agricultural activities across the full population of beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are the farmers claiming CAP support. So thanks to the regular overpasses of the Sentinel satellites, this so-called checks by monitoring approach allows to alert farmers in good time to comply with the eligibility conditions or to amend their aid claims within the permitted timeframes where this is necessary. So such a control does not necessarily result in a penalty, which is very important for the farming community. So how does DG Agri support the new technologies, as apparently we make good use of them? DG Agri invests significant time and effort in supporting member states to take up new technologies because we believe in their strategic importance for the future of agriculture. This includes also non-Earth observation technologies, especially in areas where the spatial and temporal characteristics of available satellite missions may not be sufficient or too costly. The availability of new data sources, such as geotagged photos and farm machinery data, combined with artificial intelligence-based analysis techniques and powerful cloud-based processing environments, open up an unprecedented range of possibilities to monitor agricultural practices and conditions, as well as to provide services to farmers and national and EU administrations in the future. And that is very important, that we can actually serve all parties involved. Moving towards the next, the CAP and its link to your work. From the 1st January 2023 onwards, both DG Agri and the member states will rely even more on the availability of Copernicus Sentinel satellites, as well as other new technologies to support the CAP implementation and to finally pay the farmers for the services they provide to the society. For this, we need research and innovation solutions that enable an optimal exploitation of Sentinel satellite data in various CAP relevant contexts, such as, first, the satellite-based monitoring of agricultural activities and conditions. This forms the basis of the future area monitoring system that member states have to set up, and that will assure that agricultural interventions, which are paid with EU taxpayers' money, are in line with the national strategic plans designed by the member states to meet the CAP objectives. Second, the contribution of satellite data to the management of agricultural resources in order to promote sustainability and the competitiveness of farms. And third, the support of efforts forecasting the yield of Europe's major crops. While my personal interest as deputy head of unit of the Agri unit dealing with Ajax clearly revolves around the future arid area monitoring system, me and my colleagues from my unit that will also attend this meeting look very much forward to hear from you. What are the achievements you project that we have been already able to obtain? What are new aspects you consider feasible in terms of using new technologies in support of the CAP implementation? And finally, which gaps and challenges remain, and how do you consider we might overcome these? For example, by harvesting the knowledge and experience from different Europe 2020 and future Horizon Europe projects. With this, may I wish us all an informative and fruitful clustering event. Thank you very much and have a nice morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holsten. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think we're ready to start the first session. Tangible outcomes from European projects. I will invite Ms. Panagiotta Siropoulou from Draxis Environmental SA. Ms. Siropoulou is coordinator of Envision, and the floor is yours, Panagiotta.
Thank you, Manolis. Good morning from my side too. I'm very glad to be here and thank you all for your participation in this clustering event. Oops, sorry. So I'm Panagiotis Siropoulou from Drax Environmental SA in Greece, and I'm the coordinator of the Envision project. As you may already know, Envision aspires to bring innovation and efficiency in the monitoring of environmental practices for sustainable agriculture with the support of Earth observation. But what is the actual problem that we want to solve? First of all, we identified that the new reformed CAP comes with several challenges. For example, there is a large number of rules that farmers should comply with, and the control of these rules is time-consuming. There are complex measures due to the level of detail of the applicable rules. The control procedures are reflected in high costs. There is a shift from a control to a monitoring approach now with the new CAP, and there is a promotion of the use of new technologies and multiple sources. On top of these challenges, there are several policy recommendations that should be implemented with the new CAP. For example, the EU countries should follow a holistic approach and need to shift from a compliance to a performance focus. We have a trend towards digitization of the agricultural sector and the promotion of enhanced digital skills for all the stakeholders, and of course the use of digital solutions. We need to integrate also EU and national systems. We need to make data, open data, and enhance the public services. We need to involve citizens in the whole procedure. And also we need to bring innovation in the public sector towards this transformation. So, sorry, I hear a noise from someone. Manolis, if you can fix that, thank you.
Yes.
So the Envision solution wants to solve all these problems by harnessing the benefits of GEOS and Copernicus. So our aspiration is to provide a toolbox of services for the continuous and systematic monitoring of sustainable agricultural practices, so that we enable monitoring authorities to adapt to the new requirements. So finally, we will deliver 3 customized solutions: the Envision web platform for the paying agencies and the certification bodies, the Envision mobile application for the farmers, and an add-on development tool for developers who want to build on top of the Envision services and deliver their new services. Currently, we are approximately at the middle of the project. We have already identified the user requirements and the technical requirements. We have collected and analyzed the required data, and we are currently at the phase of developing the platform and the services. So for the next 18 months, we will finalize the platform and the services. We will pilot test and implement the solution in real life environments, and we will evaluate and validate the solutions. More specifically, in the Envision ecosystem, we use multiple data sources such as DIAS, Copernicus data, and CD data, and etc. To deliver a suite of services for the reduction of environmental impacts of unsustainable agriculture. For example, water pollution in the soil, soil and landscape degradation, biodiversity loss, and greenhouse gas emissions. Where we wish to go? We wish to enable the monitoring of a wide territory instead of individual fields, to enable the continuous monitoring throughout the year instead of checks on specific dates or time windows, to lower down monitoring costs, of course, to make public authorities' procedures more transparent and efficient, and transform the knowledge into added value services. We are 13 partners from located in Greece, Cyprus, Serbia, Lithuania, Slovenia, Belgium, and the UK. And we will pilot test the Envision solution in Cyprus, Serbia, Belgium, Lithuania, and the UK. But beyond the official pilot cases, already from the proposal stage, we involved a wide network of Lighthouse customers. So we are currently exploring their interest and how they can use the Envision services throughout these months. And of course, we are open to new synergies, and we would be glad to hear from you if you are interested to join this network. Thank you very much, and I'm very eager to hear all these fruitful discussions today.
Thank you, Panagiotta. Thank you for respecting the time available. Next speaker is Mr. Volkwin Polman from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. I don't know if Volkwin is ready.
Yes, good morning. I'm ready, but I can't get to my presentation because there's some issues with my workspace, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries.
So if you can share it or...
Yes. Daniel, shall we do that, or shall we proceed with the E-Shape presentation? Is Mr. Laurent Titz ready from Vito Remote Sensing?
Yes, sure.
Okay, I propose that we continue with Mr. Titz, and then...
Oh, I see the presentation already on it, Manolis.
Okay, okay then.
So Alexandra is sharing it,
So
thank you.
Please, Volkwin, go ahead.
Yeah, my apologies. So my name is Volkwin Poelman. I'm Work Package 5 lead in the NIVA Innovation Project. NIVA stands for New iX Vision in Action. Please go to the second slide, Alexandra. So NIVA is consisting of 27 partners in total 11 countries. Can you go to slide 2, Alexandra? And
yes, I did.
Oh, sorry.
Don't you see it?
I don't see it yet, but I don't know if the rest is seeing it. Then yeah, so NIVA stands. It's not yet there. I see it in the chat. New iX Vision in Action. So these 27 partners, it's a mix of 9 paying agencies from 9 countries, but also there are NGOs, pharma organizations, software companies, and research institutes that together form this consortium. And I see it's not, here it is. Yes, it was there. I don't see it anymore. Yes, okay, thank you. So, and it is, well, a proposal in response to the Horizon 2020 call for the digital solution e-tools to modernize the CAP. Yeah, and so we have 3 main challenges identified within NIVA. So absorbing the innovations to simplify the CAP governance. The second one is very important in reducing the socio-economic and administrative burden to the farmers, and reducing the gap between iX data use and potential broader uses, because there is a lot of interesting data in the iX systems that could also be used further. And this was all done when the Commission was proposing the CAP for 2023 and further. Next slide, please. So what we have 9 pilots. We call them use cases. This is the core of the project, and because the topic of today, so we will focus on the EO monitoring and traffic lights. So we have 2 use cases that deal directly with that one. So use case 1A done by our Greek colleagues from OpenCAPE, which are also working on a decision support system using EO monitoring data. And the other one is combining AX data with satellite data is use case 1B. And Erik Zexia will present the agro-environmental monitoring later in this meeting. But altogether, it forms the integration of the integrated administration and control system. So, and we are trying to see within NIVA how we can modernize this IX system, and also including EO monitoring components in it. And so next slide, please. So here you see the example of the use case 1B. So amongst others, satellite data is coming in, and then it's also coming into the IX system, combined with data from the LPAS, amongst others. And then we try to see if we can say something about the indicators for biodiversity, nitrate, carbon, etc. But Erik will tell you later about it. Next slide, please. And also what is quite important, because we have the pilots at the core, but we also are working on harmonization and interoperability within NIVA. It is mainly done in one of our work packages, work package 3. And I think there are some interesting deliverables that we already produced. So a data model for the base types for EO monitoring. It's currently a draft version, but we will continue working on that in the last year of the project. So the NIVA project is now, we are working on 2.5 years now already within NIVA. So we did a lot of developing, and now we are working upwards to the end, which is in November this year. And another interesting document is with the recommendations for standardized connections between IX and other applications. So it's also very worthwhile reading this document as well. So I invite you all to read it and also to give your feedback on it. Next slide, Alexandra. And also interesting for people who would like to test some of the NIVA components. On the 14th of January, we launched a call for support to third parties. And it is possible to test the EO monitoring components that we developed within NIVA, but of course also all the other NIVA innovations are open for testing. So if you are interested to test, please go to this to the website of NIVA, and there you can find all the documents, and also you can find more documents about the components that we have been developing. All the developed components are also available on GitLab. So if you're interested, please take a look and see if it is also could work for you as well. So I think I reached my last slide. So my apologies for a bit messy start, but I hope I gave you a small impression about what NIVA is about, and I invite you all to visit our website or our other social media accounts in order to find out more about NIVA. So thank you.
Thank you, Volkwin. Thank you very much. Next project, eShape project, and I invite Mr. Laurent Titz from Vito Remote Sensing.
Thank you for the introduction. So today I would like indeed present the eShape contribution. So what is eShape? eShape is quite a large project. It's about 79 partners with 7 showcases and about 37 pilots. And the concept of eShape is a bit to leverage the use of Copernicus data and to really strengthen the European capacity in the context of GEO. So it's contribution of Europe to the GEO initiative. And so it's really focused on different application domains, and why am I here today presenting for the eShape consortium, because we're not the lead. Vito is currently the showcase lead for agriculture. So we try to coordinate all the different activities within the agricultural context. And right now we have 6 pilots ongoing, and the 7th one that's in the startup phase. And so you can see that we have quite a large range of applications that we're working on. So for example, there's a GeoGLAM, so the global agricultural monitoring. We work on insurance products, general crop monitoring, SDG indicators, integrating EU data with IoT to provide support to farmers, as well how we can use EU data in a broader agro industry context, so not just for the farmers. So that's with the context, that there's quite a lot of partners working within the agricultural showcase. And there's a lot of different activities, and it's a bit difficult to provide them in such a short time. So I highlight two of them because I think they could be interesting to make the connection with the other projects as well. I think two components: providing services on top of data. So that's always really important with the EU. How do you go from data to information to a certain service? And then the second is the question that a lot of people struggle with: to cloud or not to cloud. So the first one is really, if you want to provide a service, it's all about how do you transform data into information, into certain actions, and how do you get this data to the user you're interested in, or the user that is interested in your data. So here we really focus on, within eShape in a broad term, on a co-design approach. So really, how can you interact with the different types of users, identifying their needs and going from these identified needs to a certain solution. And we really focus within the agricultural showcase and specifically on 3 different types of providing your service to the user. On the one hand, we really go to full-fledged platforms, online platforms, where you publish your results, your data, for the user, so he can go to that platform and extract the information he would like. So there's 2 examples: Watch It Grow for potatoes in Belgium, and then A-Growth from NOAA about cotton in Greece. So those are 2 full-fledged platforms. But of course, there's other solutions as well. So sometimes you just need to make the data available through APIs. And there again, there's different versions. Either you do the data itself, where people can just extract data from catalogs using APIs, or you just make the methods available so that people, if they have for example, for the GeoGLAM context, we have harvest detection as a service, which means if you want to detect or extract harvest dates for a list of parcels, you can just send that list of parcels through the API, and as a return, you get a harvest date for a certain time period. So that's really the more on-demand service provision. And then, of course, there's also, if you need to push automatically your results or your data to a certain end user. So we try to see how you can, with Copernicus data, really bring the data and the information to the end user in different approaches through a coordinated co-design approach. And then the second component I would like to focus a bit. It's something that a lot of people are struggling with. You start off with research, you start off with proof of concepts, where you usually work locally. So you download a bit of data, you make the relation with in situ data. It works, and then the question is, what next? And if you want to make a service out of it, where do you deploy it? Do we stay local? Do we keep working on our own service, or do we go to the cloud? And usually when you have to do this transition from research to operations, there's a scaling issue, that you go from a few sites where you have a lot of data, but in the end, you have to provide your service over a large area, and it becomes really difficult to do it locally. So to provide some support to the different pilots on what they can do in the cloud in the European context, if you look at the different DSs, for example, what's available or what is not available, we did a benchmark exercise where we really looked at, okay, so what is using also an existing service. So we did the benchmarking with, to the example I just provided on harvest detection. So we have a very concrete service with very specific data needs and implementation needs. So what DSs and other platforms are suitable or not suitable. So we really did the whole exercise on data availability. How easy is it to implement your services there? How easy is it to follow it up? How easy it is the building structure? Is it easy to predict your costs beforehand or not? How quick is the processing, and so on and so on. So there was a whole list of variables that we checked. And then based on that, we could provide some feedback to the pilots on the question, to cloud or not to cloud.
Please, Laurent, if you can speed up a bit.
This was my last slide, so I can finish here. So this is just a few things that we're doing within the eShape contribution or an eShape project. But if you have more questions, please let me know, because we do much more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Laurent. Thank you for sharing the eShape experience. Next project is the Dion project, and I'd like to invite Mr. Valandis Tsiakos from the Institute of Communication and Computer Systems in Athens, Greece.
Thank you, Manoli, for giving the floor. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen. So,
I think it's
all.
coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, hello all, my name is Valandis Tsiakos, and I'm from the Institute of Communication and Computer Systems located in Athens, Greece. Our group, the ISNS group, is coordinating the Horizon 2020 Dion project. So allow me to share a few details about the project and what we are trying to do in the context of this of our activities. So Dion is focusing on implementing an integrated Earth observation-based toolbox in order to address the CAP regulation and modernize the area-based compliance checks, while also considering the environmental impact in the context of this process. So the project involves 8 partners, as you can see, from 5 different EU countries. It has a duration of 30 months. And currently we are, as you can see, almost in the end of the project. So essentially some details and some information about the idea and the overall concept behind Dion. So essentially we aim to evaluate different technologies and how their complementarity and integration can support the common agricultural policy and area-based monitoring and the compliance monitoring approaches that have to be applied by the paying agencies organizations across Europe. To this end, essentially we have what we call an Earth observation-based component that aims to harness the relevant data in order to support with data the relevant organizations. This component is also complemented by an in situ component, providing tools both for the paying agencies and also for the farmers in the context of this process, while considering integrity and tamper-proof the information provided. And also, we apply the necessary business logic and rules in order to take into account all this information and provide readily available results to the paying agencies, and also examining the environmental performance of the regulation of the different areas. So just to dive into some of the tools that we are implementing. So we apply the checks by monitoring approach in the context of our Earth observation-based area monitoring system. So in this context, we harness a cloud-based infrastructure along with the observation data, and we are implementing area monitoring markers. Right, so in order to be able to detect the different agricultural activities taking place, provide results on the identification of different crop types, including also the ecological focus areas. And essentially the approach, for instance, you can see some of the examples here. I mean, we are able to determine if a parcel geometry really consists of a single crop or if there are multiple things growing on the parcel. We have markers that are able to detect observation where base soil is present on the feature of interest that can be used as an indication of agricultural activity on the feature of interest, like plowing or harvesting. Detection of mowing events on meadow, on grass, like feature of interest, the detection of different crops and non-productive BFAs, and also being able to detect erroneous claims with no vegetation through the NDVI marker. Some of the main elements in the context of this process is that we try to upscale the kind of resolution of the observation data. To this context, super resolution modeling is being applied. So this involves two main steps. One step consists of different architectures that enable to augment the coarser resolution of Sentinel-2 bands to the resolution of the finer bands, and evaluate how this can facilitate the detection process. And the other part involves the combination of Sentinel data log with other very high resolution data sources like drone imagery or other commercial data that we use. Something that is particularly important in order to allow us to detect the non-productive ecological focus areas types, as well as tackle cases of small and elongated parcels that are common across Europe.
Valandis, if you can speed up a bit.
Yeah. So just being quick. Another part that is complement the framework is the geotagged photos framework. Here, key features involve augmented reality-based features for guidance of the user in the parcel, direct communication with the paying agencies, and also an integrity framework that allow us to secure the time where an image has been captured, as well as the location, and that the images collected have not been manipulated. Also, in the context of the in-situ components, we have a portable soil scanning system that allows us to collect different soil spectra in the field and transform these observations to soil quality parameters. And also, by combining this with observation data, we are able to produce spatially explicit maps of properties like soil organic carbon and clay. And then all this information is being analyzed in the context of a compliance monitoring tool that applies the necessary logic according to the different rules of crop, for instance, diversification on the EFAs and so on, allowing easy visualization of the results for the paying agencies, as well as supporting interaction with the farmers in the context of the use of the geotag photos mobile application. And last but not least, we have also an environmental performance tool that I mentioned. So here the idea is to be able to assess and compute different environmental indicators covering land cover change, soil erosion, soil organic matter, organic farming, water quality and other irrigations, greenhouse gases, the impact of agricultural activities and the contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, and also monitoring high nature value farmland and Natura 2000 areas, and how these indices are being progressed or in line with agricultural activities. This tool, it is AI based in the sense that the different data sources and observation data available are properly modeled in order to provide an inference, a result, not for the future period, in order to be able also to give us an estimation about how this phenomenon are going to evolve. But in some cases, it allows us to be able to classify also larger areas, for instance, in the context of the soil organic matter, where we are able, or to organic farming, right, that provides us an assessment of the areas under organic agriculture in large scale.
Valandis,
So this is it. Yeah, from my end, these activities are being piloted in two pilot countries, in Cyprus and Lithuania, and we are inviting you to visit our website and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Valandis. Thank you very much for illustrating the Dion project. Next, it is the Beacon project, and I'd like to invite Mr. Emmanuel Lekakis from AgroApps Thessaloniki, Greece. Manuel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Manolius. Good morning. I'm Manuel Lekakis, and I'm the head of the scientific department of AgroApps. I will be presenting a few outcomes of Beacon project. So Beacon is a market-led project that couples Earth observation with weather intelligence and blockchain to deliver a toolbox for timely, cost-efficient, and actionable insights for the agricultural insurance sector. Beacon aims to leverage the booming agricultural insurance market by exploiting recent developments in Earth observation technology. Beacon quantifies one of the main challenges. Okay. Beacon quantifies one of the main challenges of claim-based insurance, and I highlight that it is claim-based insurance, not an area or index-based insurance, which is crop damage assessment. To accomplish this, a multi-satellite approach is employed in order to provide safe and reliable results on hailstorm, floods, wildfires, and drought damage. So Beacon exploits 3 satellite constellations, which are Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, and MODIS. Specifically, Beacon uses the MODIS Terra NDVI for agricultural drought detection, monitoring, and crop loss assessment. The MODIS NDVI datasets in 8-day intervals are available from 2001, so this is a good historical record at 250 meters resolution. The methodology was developed and tested against ground truth data in Spain on wheat and barley crops originating from the rural areas of Avila and Segovia in Spain. So the data were provided by the company Agroseguro, which manages the agricultural insurance on the Spanish market at national level. Relative NDVI anomaly was calculated by dividing the average NDVI for a particular 8-day period of a given year by the multi-year mean NDVI of the specific 8-day interval. And the NDVI anomaly was calculated for the whole, of course, growing season. To explore the link between the NDVI anomaly and drought impact, we did a few accumulations. We accumulated the absolute NDVI anomaly produced throughout the growing season, and this was correlated with in situ damage. So the in situ damage was actually parcel-based damage. And the calculated statistical criteria promoted shorter NDVI aggregation periods with an observed shift towards the end of the growing season. The moderately strong correlations and best criteria were achieved with NDVI anomaly accumulation late in the season, which highlights the importance of drought impact during the late stages of crop growth, which is anthesis, seed fill, and maturity stages, meaning approximately months April, May, and June, meaning always talking always for wheat and barley. So an indicator impact function was derived for initial damage. However, there are a few limitations. So these correlations did not take into account the non-damaged parcels, and this is because we have similarities between MODIS NDVI and NDVI anomaly of damaged and non-damaged parcels. So it is a matter of how, for example, fertile is a parcel, and all these limit the application of the indicator impact functions to verify cases of drought claims. So these findings, of course, pose restrictions in the discrimination between damaged and non-damaged parcels, calling for further research. We had also we applied change detection to assess hail damage at parcel level. Two approaches were evaluated. One was a simple approach, and the other was a machine learning approach.
So you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Actually, they were both based on a change detection index by subtracting the post-damage image by a pre-damage image pixel by pixel, and then we calculated this damage percentage index. So simple VI, as I said, the differentiating technique was applied, and then machine learning techniques were also applied. What we saw was that radar, unfortunately, satellite radar data did not provide good results. However, we also applied machine learning techniques, support vector machines, and random form algorithms were trained with damaged and non-damaged parcels. So the main idea was to produce the most representative pre and post-damage images from a multi-temporal image stack. We had a few good results. However, still, the regression models, the analysis revealed that during initial and vegetative stages, this damage percentage index was able to discriminate damage. However, the method failed during physiological maturity and plant senescence due to the phenology. Thank you very much, Manolis.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. This next presentation is about the EO widget project. And our speaker is Mr. Gerhard Tribnik from EOX IT Services in Austria. Mr. Tribnik, the floor is yours. You're muted.
Here we go. Good morning from the EO Widget initiative, which is all about area monitoring service hosting offerings. The main protagonists are the companies EOX and GeoWill, collaborating with a number of stakeholders all over Europe. My first message, EO Widget is a realization of checks by monitoring and area monitoring system services as contractor operated services. You see on the right-hand side a word cloud, which somehow defines the universe of the EU Widget initiative. It's for implementing customized CAP strategies. By customized, we mean implementing the local rules of CAP paying agencies, the local strategies, but also the level of integration or the depth of integration between the monitoring services and the paying agencies' IX systems. Contractors have a very important role in this concept because they supply the value chain, the infrastructure, the satellite data processing, the APIs, the expert apps, and validation support. The monitoring products are shown here. Homogeneity, ineligibility like imperviousness, cover, change, crop type, mowing events, harvest detection. These products will be described in a companion paper by David Kolitsos in slot 3 of today's meeting. Important to say that EOWidget exposes application programming interfaces towards the IXs, and after validation, the paying agencies are enabled to import the monitoring products into the IX system via these APIs. Validation is done via provided web graphical user interfaces or apps, and with different functions like Parcel Explorer, like quality assessment tools, like expert judgment tools, and also workflow apps for handling the workflows dealing with the so-called inconclusive parcels. You get a glance of the web GUI here on the right-hand side for an example of crop type validation. There is a public demo available on this link, and also a recent blog post published. And I understand the slides will be distributed to all of you so that you can follow these links when you get the copy of the slides. My last slide and my second message here, EOWidget is now ready to team up for serving CAP paying agencies everywhere in Europe. EOWidget is an industrial investment with incubation funding from ESA and from Austria. It is offering free service trials, demos, product licenses, open source demo product licenses, and open source building blocks for building graphical user interfaces, which we call the widgets. The service has been proved throughout 2 full seasons of pre-operations over the countrywide Austrian territory for the years 2020 and 21. So scaling has been proved and the concept has been proved. And we are now responding where adequate to procurement calls, inviting flexible industrial teaming, primarily cooperations with local contractors, incumbent contractors of paying agencies, for matching the paying agencies' trust and expectations to the maximum degree possible. I invite you to contact me in case you have questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tibnik. Thank you very much for respecting the time. Now we are jumping to the second session, and it is time for the European paying agencies presentations. I quickly invite Mr. Gregor Milczynski from Synergize, Slovenia, to get the floor.
Thank you. Can you confirm that you can hear me and see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, very well. So I'll be talking fast because we have a short time available. So I'm Gregor Milczynski from Synergize, and we are working with the Slovene paying agency where we set up a system in 2020, and now we are actually using it in production. Well, they are using it. We just are helping them to do so. So just briefly, what it is about. We focused first on the basic payment scheme and less favored areas, which are the most important part of the new common agricultural policy. Now, Slovenia has about 800,000 parcels. This is the total amount of the parcels. What the challenge that we have is that a significant part of this, basically a quarter, are so small that they don't have even one single Sentinel-2 pixel in it. And there's like almost half of them which wouldn't have more than 6 pixels in it. So that is the, let's say, the main issue, the main technical challenge that we were facing, along with all the rest that were already mentioned before. Now, how did it go through? We started in August 2020. This was really the start of the activities. I mean, obviously we built on top of Stem4Cup and other previous projects, but this is when we started to work together. Then by December, we basically had all the model developed to the prototype level, like to sufficient level that we believe that this might work or that will work, right? I mean, you never know with these research activities whether they really will work, but that was the time. Then in March 21, we basically started with the operational pilot, which was like go to the production. In May, we were able to have the first real results of the fine-tuned models because of, I mean, you need the time to actually process the data. And then by August, we publicly disclosed the results. So we informed the farmers about it, and they were able to observe these results. And these results were then updated every month in September, October, so that because we had new data coming in and we were able to improve the results. And during this period, now typically farmers would be able to change the claims. At the moment, this was still a pilot, so it was not related to any kind of penalties. So farmers were not mandated to change the claims. Yet they still seen what the agency thinks about their parcels. So some of them actually have done so. And they were able to communicate their thoughts on the data with the paying agency, and they have done so quite a bit. And obviously the checks of the yellow parcels were happening. And in October last year, I mean, basically the exercise was concluded and there was a statistic done and so on and so on. Now, how we were able to do that that fast? It was because we had like the services and technology and all the tools in place so that basically we were able to just fine tune and put things together. Starting with the basic data processing, which was done using our Sentinel Hub batch API, which allows you to define what kind of statistics you'd like to get for a specific parcel. And then you put in all 800,000 parcels in a geo package, and you have it running and you get statistics on the object level, meaning the, I know, NDVI, all the bands, bare soil index, whatever you put in the processing script. And then you get the results. And so this was like an exercise that didn't take any time whatsoever because it was just using the tools. We put a lot of effort into cleaning up the data so that we could get from like the typical signal with lots of noise to the clean signal that had as little noise as possible. And then we started to work on the markers. We didn't go with the typically crop classification and alike. We started with more simple one, like homogeneity, checking whether the parcel is really just one crop or more crops, which might be relevant for some measures, but what is mostly relevant is for the further noise. I mean, if you have more crops in it, that means that the signal will be significantly disrupted, right? And you cannot really rely it. Then the next one was a typical statistical one where we compared one parcel with the parcels with the similar parcels in the neighborhood. And this gave a ton of very simple and fast information on whether the crop declared is correct one, whether the land cover is correct one. You immediately see the things that are supposed to be the arable land, but in reality they are not. They are, I know, a build-up area or something like that. I mean, these simply pop out without any machine learning whatsoever. It's just saying, look, you compare things to others, and this can be done on a masses. You even see these kind of examples where you have arable land that mid-period is converted into something else so that the land is changed. And you see, again, these things pop up because they just don't fit in terms of the signal. Then the next one, very simple one, just checking the NDVI, whether the NDVI is kind of something that you would expect from the arable land or the grassland or the forest. On a very, very high level, simply, I mean, the build-up area will always have low NDVI, and you can, again, immediately find these parcels without any further checking. And every time you do that, you basically reduce the sample of the problematic parcels to work with. Then there were typical markers such as bare soil, where we identified the time slots where there was bare soil. So in order to keep that in the traffic line. The mowing, we did the we realized that we need to check for mowing and for partial mowing, because many larger grasslands are not mowed at the same time fully, and therefore you don't see this in the signal. Now, and this is where we came to another challenge in terms of the data. I mean, the first one was the small parcels. The small parcels, we immediately decided that we'll use Planet Fusion for that, because Sentinel-2 simply didn't work for that. But then when we used Planet Fusion, we realized that we can make use of it also for the parts which were too cloudy. So we had parcels which didn't have enough observations, cloudless observation, to detect specific events. And for this, only for this, we said, okay, let's also try Planet Fusion data. And then because they have much more observations because of their daily coverage, we were able to, for these non-small parcels, to basically find additional data, so that we were able to get the relevant marker out of it. Crop group classification, a pretty standard thing. And then again, all of these machine learning tools were there and statistical and so on, but we only treated them as like one input to a simple business rule process. I think, and this is super important, to know how you want to define the specific measures. And for different measures, for different types of land, there were a bit different business rules, but in all of these were human interpretable. That was super important, because it was human interpretable. We were able to ask the paying agency to check the things, both the, let's say, those that fit, so that they were able to validate our results, as well as going through all the yellow parcels. I mean, we had yellow parcels, about, I think, 20,000 of them first, but then they were reducing through time as we had more data. And we prepared the tool so that they were able to go through each and every of the yellow parcels very fast, in a matter of, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, check it to see whether it's just a machine learning issue, that, you know, like you cannot see something that is actually visible, or that there actually is no event visible that would kind of confirm the agriculture activity. And then the last tool that was super important was the application, where we presented all these results to farmers. It was so each farmer got a mail saying, look, you can access the application at this address, you put in this username and password, and then they've seen all their claims. And for each of their claims, they simply see it whether it was green or yellow, right? And for the yellow ones, they were able to see why it is marked as yellow, and this why it was simply marked to that traffic light that I showed previously. So for all the steps that were marked as that they don't meet in the traffic light, they were mentioned here. And then farmers were able to use this tool to communicate their feedback, either just, like explaining it in words, or attaching the geotagged photos, or even some other the materials, but mostly they were these two.
Grega, if you can speed up. Okay.
Yeah, that's the last slide. So I conclude here, because as mentioned of the time, but I will invite you next week for a dedicated event, where we will go in much more details on how this process was done from the technical point of view, together with Planet. And yeah, thank you very much, and looking forward for discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Milczynski. Now it's the turn of the National Paying Agency of Lithuania, and I'm inviting Mr. Liutauras Šimkus to get the floor. Liutauras, if you're ready.
Yes, Manolis, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are seeing your screen. Please put it in the full screen mode.
Just a second. How
Thank
it works
you.
now?
Yes.
Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Liutauras Šimkus. I am the Director of Control Department in the National Paying Agency of Lithuania, and I will briefly present our experience with CAP monitoring. So National Paying Agency administers EU and national support measures for agriculture, rural development, and fisheries, and is responsible for all IACS controls in Lithuania. We have over 200 support measures and activities, and more than 130,000 applicants and beneficiaries who receive over 900 million euros of support each year. We have developed all necessary elements of software and registers, including robotic software for the evaluation of applications. And we have established a strong communication with all relevant stakeholders, including the farmer unions, municipalities, and advisory bodies. Besides that, we are involved in the international projects like DION, Envision, NIVA, OpenIX, Eiffel, Widget, where we are testing new tools, algorithms, and developing process of for administration and controls. We also participated in already finalized projects as RECAP, EU4Agri, and SEM4CAP. And so we have enough experience with the new tools, algorithms, and the applicability in everyday activities. Satellite observation usage started in 2020 season. Main idea was to check all requirements remotely from the 3% sample. Area was measured by based on very high resolution images provided by European Commission, and eligibility criteria checked with the SEM4CAP algorithms for the crop type detection and grassland mowing. Additionally, for grassland mowing, we used internal project results from the Lithuanian company. We call it Capcon, to cover more parcels. In 2021 season, after the SEM4CAP project ended, we decided to use our Capcon results as primary data. On top, we used DION project, where we compare results and get more suitable parcels for administration in the final stage. During 2021 season, for the first time, we send the messages with reminders to complete grassland mowing task to the farmers. And then this prevention campaign is very important part of a monitoring approach. In 2022, we plan to use Capcon and DION results for crop type detection and Capcon results for the grassland mowing. And on top, it is planned to perform testing of Envision and Eiffel project results. Also, there is a plan to use algorithm results not only for the substitution of on-the-spot checks, but also for early warnings for farmers of possible non-compliance or mistakes in their declaration. In-house monitoring solution creation started in 2019 by requirement specification. Development phase started in 2020, and first results were generated in July 2020 for validation. After this year, developments, insights from testing and validation results, it was decided to continue monitoring approach, and some adjustments were made to prepare algorithms for 2021 campaign. And after 2021 results validation in June, we used for classical on-the-spot checks approach from July 20. And we have calculated last year that by using monitoring algorithm, we have already saved 6,500 hours of our hours. It's about 2 or 3 weeks non-stop field work. So it amount is huge. Let's have a look into house solutions here. All in-house monitoring system is divided into outside and inside models. All required Sentinel data and necessary processing are done by outsourced company. This company on their side perform calculation and provide only final results in line with each declared parcels used in algorithms. On paying agency side, we have created monitoring administration model and monitoring data integration model. So these new models are fully integrated into current paying agency system. And well, these new models in place, we can easily, when we have these models in place, we can easily combine several algorithms results. So far, we have developed 24 algorithms, and mainly algorithms are firstly based on Sentinel-1 data as primary and Sentinel-2 as secondary input data. Talking in details, we have 19 different crop type algorithms, which covers 86% of the whole parcels and 92% of all declared area. And we are receiving results every 10 days. For the grassland moving algorithm, we have overall accuracy of 95%. And it's strange, but we have an insight that from farm holding, which do not have animals, the accuracy was worse. Also, once per year, we are receiving results for land cover algorithms, arable land, grassland, abandoned land, and non-eligible objects. And 4 algorithms, organic farming, non-tillage, alpha, and clover algorithms are still under development. Here you can see the results of algorithms in our internal GIS layer, where green means confirmed, red not confirmed, and yellow not confirmed yet. In this concrete example, the results are from 12th of July, and most of the parcels at this date were green. Basically now, this layer is used internally to overview the results and to detect risky parcels for additional checks. And in the future, we plan to add this layer into portal and mobile app and share these results with farmers for self-check of compliance of the eligibility criteria. So one of the options for beneficiary to become green in the layer is to provide the geotag photo. So geotag,
speed up if possible.
Okay, yeah. Geotag photos are an integral part of monitoring, and inside you can see the growth and development of geotag mobile application tool, our named NMA Agro. We started in 2018. We launched a free and easy to use mobile application, both for Android and in 2019 for iOS system. This solution helps farmers to report about their perform activities. The mobile application has access to all main land parcel identification system layers, soil erosion, Natura 2000 authorities. Also, it provides access to constantly updated satellite images of Copernicus program Sentinel, vegetation index, crop water stress index, and so on. So in less than 5 years, the number of users we have from 500 to more than current more than 24,000 users. What lessons we learned? That in 2021, only 48% of free selection on the spot parcels could be monitored. And the reason was that national legislation rules with non-monitorable eligibility criteria as mulching. Mulching is impossible to determine with the algorithm. Algorithm code has to be in paying agency ownership in order to adapt quickly and efficiently to the existing condition. We initially thought that algorithm validation would be difficult, but in principle, validation based on GRC guidelines was easier than we expected. IX software development updates for data comparison into IX processes was harder than we expected. And the results from the different algorithms providers led to compare, share insights, and raise the overall quality. And the last slide for the future, we will continue algorithm development. This year will be the biggest challenge of preparation for 2023 season and go operational on full scale with air monitoring system. As I mentioned before, that it is a plan to add monitoring results into paying agency portal and mobile app, and it would work as prevention system for farmers. And since projects are underway with new tools, the goal is to move from testing to deployment. So this is it from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Liutauras. Thank you for sharing the Lithuanian experience. Before we go to our next speaker, I'd like to highlight that all speakers should check the Q&As regularly, because already there are questions from the audience. So please do not miss this during the event. Next speaker is Mrs. Julie Borch-Friedrichsen from the Danish Agricultural Agency. Please, Julie, you have the floor, so go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll just, if my sound makes funny scratchy noises, would you please let me know, because then I'll switch off the camera and see if the sound improves.
All right.
So I'll just shortly take you through our checks by monitoring practice as it is now, and also how we use satellite data for other controls in the paying agency, for instance, risk-based sampling, and the lesson we've learned so far, and also the challenges we see within the next few years. So in Denmark, we monitor the basic payment scheme and also the lesser favored areas. And in Denmark, it was very important that we've been doing it since 2020, operational. And it was very important for us that we could develop a fully automated setup, so that all the way from data leaving the agency to return of analyzed data and displaying them in a traffic light and making payments to the farmer. And I'll present a timeline later on, but it was very, very important that everything was fully automated to truly harvest all the benefits as well. So it's not just an expense, but it's also has benefits. We also use satellite data not only for the checks by monitoring, but also for different kind of controls where we can assess which parcel that should be a part of the risk-based samplings. For instance, farmers who are exempted from crop diversification and also the ecological focus area obligations. And we also do analysis on farmer with high bare soil index in September on sampling the catch crops controls. So we use them both for the checks by monitoring, but also for sampling better controls. So in Denmark, we do crop classification in the beginning of the year. We receive the crop classification once. So and the crop classification for us is also very important, as it divides the group of parcels into which analysis track they should follow. So then afterwards, I think we received the crop classification around 1st of July. And then from August till 25th of October, we receive the activity markers, plowing, harvest, mowing, and we receive them daily. Well, obviously not national, but for which part of Denmark has been overflown. And then in the end of the year, we do a non-compliance classification. In the non-compliance classification, we sort of turn everything around. So from the crop classification and onwards, we all the time look at something that's most likely to be eligible. And in the non-compliance classification, we look at all right, so this is the rest of the parcels that has not turned green yet, which one of them are most likely to be non-compliant. And so this is a timeline for the Danish setup. The crop classification, well, obviously using data from before July, and this was a once delivery, and we have all the activity markers that goes on until October. And then from 1st of September, we show the traffic light in the farmer's GIS. So here we show the traffic light, so he can access it. The farmer is only able to see his own parcels, so nobody can log onto our systems and see, are my neighbor compliant or isn't he? So it's protected, so you can only see your own data when you log into the GIS. Then we have the non-compliance classification. And then our hearing period starts. And for us, it's been very important that the farmer has a possibility to be compliant. We don't want to withhold his payments. So actually, we use the traffic light as a nudging, saying, so this is, we don't have any red parcels yet here because the activity requirements shouldn't have been met yet. So we only have green and yellow, but to alert him, we can't see that you've been compliant yet. Then when we send out the hearing to the farmer, we actually send it out on the 11th of October, which means, and the activity requirement has to be met by the 25th of October, which means he has 14 days to become compliant. So that we ensure that he is compliant and that he can receive his payments. So we actually put the hearing period in the last bit of the activity requirement period, which has been working very, very well. And he documents this. If he doesn't agree that his parcel should be read, he documents it in the app that we've provided for him as well. And in the app, you can only take pictures if you are standing on a parcel for which you have received a hearing. So you can't take pictures of all kinds of parcels. We also have a lot of training data that we collect throughout the year. Yeah, so this is the farmer's GIS, where he can keep track on how his parcels are doing. And we have around 500,000 parcels, and this is for last year, where we ended up having 900 red parcels, and those are the parcels we send out a hearing on. We also have a web viewer for visualization of the results, and this is an internal web viewer, so nobody else than us can see it, and it's been very, very useful. It's our external provider that's built it for us. And here you can sort of deep dive into how come the parcel has turned red or green, and it's very useful for audits or for QA, and I think it's going to be very useful for the AMS QA. So here you can see in this season, where do we have images with a low cloud cover. So where are all the good images? You can see what's the NDVI during the season. You can see coherence during the season. You can access all the probabilities within all the results. So you can, if a back office officer asks, how come a farmer's asking, how come this parcel, this and this, it's very easy to find out in our web viewer.
Julie, if you can speed up a bit.
Yeah, I will. I'll just go on to the ongoing challenges that we have, that we can see going onwards, and it's the grassland and fallow. We still have a high, we have a low probability score for our grassland and fallows. We also have problems with the small parcels, not having any clean pixels, and not enough when you reduce for buffer effects. and also the small crop classes, cabbage, for instance, or yeah, different kind of small crop classes. So we don't want to end up with a lot of georeferenced pictures in the new AMS. And the subparcel classification, which also will be a problem in the future AMS when analyzing for ineligible features. Yeah, so that was it.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you very much. Now it's the turn of Estonia, and I'm inviting Ms. Irene Hango from the Agricultural Registers and Information Board. Please, Irene, go ahead.
So, hi, can you hear me? So, can you see it?
Yes, yes, perfectly.
Sorry, I have a nosebleed, so I hope you don't mind that. So, I'm from Estonia, and my name is Irene Hango. And today I'm going to talk about our organization and our automated moving detection system, Satikas. ARIB is a paying agency, and that means it pays money to the farmers. The objective is to motivate them to fulfill the goals of common agricultural policy. Goals are, for instance, environmental, economical, security, and so on. In order to receive subsidies, certain rules has to be followed and requirements have to be fulfilled. ARIB is not only paying money, but also checks if the requirements are fulfilled. In case of mistakes, penalties are applied. Data from different registers is used to keep the track of subsides. For automated moving detection is our system Satikas. Sentinel-1 and 2 time series are the basis of the analysis, and data is received about once a week. It is used for all applicants who have applied for grasslands. And the system can identify moved and not moved grasslands, and the result is date that is actually time period between due dates when moving has done. This picture describes how Satikas is getting the satellite images before and after STHAB is ready. It is reasonable to host the system and make the calculations right next to the dataset. The software of Satikas is located in STHAB to avoid moving a large amount of data unnecessary. ARIB sends the field geometry to STHAB, and STHAB sends the moving results back. This happens all online. And new results are obtained at least once a week, according to how many new satellite images there are. So here is example how our system looks like. On the left, we have a public web map that farmers can have access to. They can check the results of the moving detection application. There is a guide how to use the layer of the maps. And the current status of the parcel is shown. The results on the web map are updated accordingly to how often the application recalculates them. And farmers can observe the results in eARIB. Results are shown in the list of their fields. By clicking on the icon of a form, detailed information will open. And on the right is how we see it in our system. Columns indicate the moving status and the time period of probable moving event. Our learned lessons. Weather data was tried to use, but we realized it was actually a noise. Much work was done, but the impact of the results was zero. Also, scaling issues can generate garbage too. If training data doesn't cover the whole country, results might not be valid, especially considering larger countries. This model has been trained already for 2 years, and it's still not accurate enough. July 2021 was very hot and dry in Estonia, and model did not distinguish between moved and dried grasslands. It also has a problem detecting moving and grazing when it's done in parts, since at every moment in time, the overall vegetation in the field is still largely present, and because of that, not moved result is issued. And the cloud mask does not always distinguish where there is a cloud, and sometimes the appearance of one results in a moved status for the parcel. And Cytecas is able to get results for 92% of all grassland area and for 62% of the number of grasslands. And there are also some problems with keeping data up to date. For example, right now, Sentinel-2 and 1 is not working, and it is making some problems for us. Here are some examples of results from last year. You can see the moved area and not moved, and the yellow is not sure, and also the declared area and parcels in total. And in the future, right now we are testing crop detection and app for geotagged photos and trying to improve detection of grazing. Also, there will be a new area monitoring system in 2023, and right now we are making preparations for it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you for respecting the time. Now we jump to the other side of Europe. We're going to Spain, and I invite Mr. Javier Sanchez-Lirena from the Spanish Agrarian Guarantee Fund to get the floor. Javier. You're muted. Yes. We are not listening to you.
Now, can you hear us? It seems that it's working.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Oh. No. Good morning. My name is Fernando Feliu, and I work for the Spanish coordination body, FIGA. I'm going to share this presentation with my colleague, Javier Sanchez, and we will refer to the National Checks by Monitoring project led by FEGA and developed by the public company Trasatec. So if we go to the index, we'd like to present our body, the FIGA will describe roughly our Checks by Monitoring project, and we'd like to share our experience during these 4 years of implementation, and then we'll end up with our future plans. And FEGA is a public body belonging to the Spanish Ministry of Agriculture, whose primary goal is to ensure the correct application of the European funds assigned to Spain. It does this work in coordination with the 17 regional paying agencies. FEGA is also the Spanish representative concerning CAP subsidies, participating in European committees and expert group meetings. So regarding the scope and the running out of our project, the Spanish paying agencies started applying Checks by Monitoring in the 2019 campaign and the 6 different projects. Until 2021, Checks by Monitoring, classical on-the-spot checks and control with remote sensing coexisted. Now in 2022, Checks by Monitoring will encompass the whole set of first pillar schemes and an increasing number of rural development measures, covering the entire Spanish territory, except the Canary Islands. Both the area and the control and the number of process geometries have increased in this period, as shown in the slide. In the current campaign, the national project will monitor over 25 million hectares, corresponding to nearly 18 million geometries. In addition, it's important to remind that Castilla and Leon region has carried out its own monitoring project since 2019. Regarding our IT infrastructure, the monitoring platform manages several processes, working as the orchestrator of the operations included in the automated phase. The platform runs on a Google Cloud environment where the main elements of this architecture are located. Here we mention some of the Google products used for this purpose. Concerning Google Earth Engine, it is a library that allows us to access the image catalog and the extraction of Sentinel signals in a very efficient way with a high processing capacity. As for the technologies we use in the platform, the primary language is Python 3, and Random Forest is the algorithm we employed for the crop classifier. Now here in this slide, we show the process overview, our workflow. It follows the GRC fit stage approach with 3 phases. We have adapted the flowchart according to our experience to simplify the process and reduce the workload. The automated phase consists of 5 or 6 markers combined in various ways, depending on the processing lane. The markers and rules are parameterized each campaign according to a ground truth sample. The GSA geometries are processed, taking into account the rules established according to each lane's eligibility conditions. Now, the process continues with the financial impact assessment and the expert judgment. Then the remaining yellow and red parcels are communicated to farmers. Farmers can either amend the GSA and then the modified geometries to restart the monitoring process, or can provide geotag photos. Finally, inconclusive parcels are inspected in the fields. This is an overview of our traffic light procedure and our calendar for the project. This chart then depicts the 4 monitoring cycles conducted between April and September. The 4 deliveries of results correspond to the early crop classification, the winter crops traffic light, the summer crops traffic light, and the traffic light produced after the checks by monitoring amendments period, which includes also the results of the geotag photos. The calendars can be customized by PNA agencies. We would like to highlight the importance of planning the flow of information between farmers, PNA agencies, and the monitoring platform as a key aspect in order to ensure the viability of this control method. Now we are going to talk about the automated phase, markers, and lanes. Concerning the automated phase, we have about 15 lanes grouped according to 2 types of verification: the verification of the agricultural activity or the validation of the declared crop. Each lane comprises a combination of markers as shown in the diagram. In the first stage, the abandonment risk market is calculated using the last 2 orthophotos available as input data and processed with deep learning classification techniques. Then, in a second stage, the previous level risk of abandonment is updated using different annual phenological markers according to the parcel's land use. In a third stage, the heterogeneity market, the machine learning market, and the TACAE index are applied. We remark that we do separate machine learning classifications for the majority and minority crops. Also, we process all the geometries regardless of the size. And now, Javier, my fellow, takes the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. So during the semi-automatic phase, experts analyze the parcel's steam market with yellow or red lights. The analysis is based on a very comprehensive examination of the following information that is shown in the screen: Sentinel-2 imagery, a pixel-level classification performed by machine learning, computer-assisted photo interpretation using selected Sentinel-2 images, and in some cases spot images, and the latest LPS data available. So the process continues with follow-up actions that basically consist of sending active communication to farmers in order to request them to send geotag photos or to request them to amend their payment claim. From our experience, we can see that geotag photos have proven to be a very efficient way for farmers to provide additional evidence. They are currently analyzed manually, but the research and development team of Traxatech is developing deep learning algorithms, and the results of which have been provided to the photo interpreters in order to provide additional information in order to conclude about the eligibility of these parcels. So finally, we remind that the automatic heterogeneity marker is also very helpful in order to warn farmers about potential inaccuracies in their geometries. We can see in this slide some of the figures that contain the results of 2021. So we observe that the percentage of red parcels is very low for all aid schemes at the end of the process. On the other hand, yellow parcels decreases their numbers along the process. As we can see, as they are obtained from the automatic phase, yellow case are higher in the greening payment and the voluntary couple support scheme regimes because they have higher talent detection demands.
Fernando, please mind the time.
Yes. We also underline that the number of field visits is in all cases practically irrelevant, as we can see in this figure. So concerning the lessons learned, we would like to highlight that checks by monitoring have proven to be a preventive control system that reduces penalties and administrative burden, having a clear deterrent effect. The original JRC methodology have to be adapted using other type of markers due to Spain's high climate variability and crop diversity, and also to address the issue of land abandonment. Automatic high performance markers and processes are essential for conducting checks by monitoring over large areas in almost real time. It is also very important to note that to have a balanced workflow and calendars for the correct execution of the different tasks is really, really important in order to coordinate all the tasks. Also, checks by monitoring quality assessments has proven to be a very important tool in order to identify weaknesses and potential improvement areas. And our most important future plans is that we plan to use checks by monitoring as the basis of the new future area monitoring system in the next CAP reform. We aim to report reliable CAP area-based indicators using this tool. Nevertheless, the checks by monitoring methodology will remain a subsidiary control system for the payment claims in Spain. In this regard, follow-up actions and expert judgment phase will continue playing an essential role, as we have seen in previous slides. Regarding the eco schemes, conditionality, and some challenges rural development measures, we plan to develop specific methodological approaches in order to address them. And finally, Traxatet will continue developing these AI automated algorithms in order to process geotax photos in an automatic way. This may allow to process a huge amount of pictures provided by farmers, allowing to include the control of some eligibility criteria or operations under AAMS. And this is all from our side. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you very much for sharing the experience from Spain. Now it's time for our break. We're going to have a 5 minutes break, and we will continue with the session on Earth observation services for agriculture. Thank you and see you in 5 minutes. So I think we are ready to continue. Before we start the next session, I'd like to remind that there are still some questions for the speakers in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screens. I invite all the speakers of the next session to open their cameras. And the first is Mr. Panos Ilias from the EV ILVO, which is the Flanders Agricultural Research Organization. Panos, if you're ready, you have the floor.
Yes, can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay, hello everybody, and thank you for the event today. Today I'm going to present part of the work we have done as ILVO, together with the Department of Agriculture in Flanders for the development of Earth observation base products that aims on the assessment of topsoil organic carbon at large scale and at parcel level. Today I will try to explain the methodology, and for each phase I will list the major challenges and the planning improvements. But first I will start by giving a short introduction about me and also about ILVO. I'm a GeoEye engineer. What I like to do is to develop IT solutions, and I have experience in the agri-food domain, and currently I support ILVO on various digitization activities, including Just Connect, and also the development of a food waste data space. And I'm also responsible for the Envision project, the development of topsoil organic carbon estimation, and also I'm working in StereoPES. ILVO is a Flemish Research Institute. We have a link with the Flemish government, and one of the major missions of ILVO is to support digitization activities around data sharing, digital sovereignty, precision, and smart farming. Well, our goal, in short, within Envision, what is our mission within Envision, is the development of a service that delivers topsoil organic carbon estimations at parcel level, and we have to cover the needs of the CAP for organic carbon monitoring. And the service should provide estimation for the whole Flemish region. This is what we mean large scale. How we are planning to do that, what we're doing actually right now, by using mainly Sentinel-2 time series together with the soil organic carbon lab measurements. And we also use indicators in order to assess the bare soil. I will try to explain a little bit more about that. So the first phase, if you want to develop a service around topsoil organic carbon, it's to estimate the bare soil. This is very important step. You have to identify bare soil pixels. And after you do that, at the end of the day, you have created a bare soil collection. And the next step is to, by using this bare soil collection, is to perform a mapping between the existing lab measurements for specific points with the signal reflections of pixels. That's the goal of the phase 2, which is the modeling. And the next one, which is the deployment of the model, and also you have to apply a business model, is when you have to present this information to the consumers of the service, but also to the end users. I mean the paying agency, but also the farmers. And the next step is the validation. You have to validate your service. You have to validate that the service deliver accurate and user-friendly information in a user-friendly way. And you have, the next one is to provide improvements at each phase. And you have to consider how the improvement of each phase interacts. There's a domino effect somehow, and how you you inherit the errors from one phase to the other. Within Envision, we have applied this methodology, and considering also the specific service requirement that LV, the Department of Agriculture, has provided to us, but also the existing landscape and the upcoming landscape in digital soil mapping in Flanders. And we also have in our mind not only to work on the perspective that related to the common agricultural policy, but also how we can use the same products for precision and smart farming. And right now we are in phase 5. We have already performed a first iteration, and together with LV, we have tried to validate the results, and we have considered which are the improvements, and we try to apply those improvements. That's the phase that has already started at Envision. The feedback and the lessons we have learned. I will try to list them in short, and but for more information, you have to waste some publications we are planning to have, but those publications we are going to have them after the second iteration and after the validation and the improvement phase. This is very important for us because ILVO is trying to use existing research results and try to use those results in order to provide a service. So we have to validate those results and then to provide more information about that. So for phase 1, I think it's the most critical one. And after the first iteration, we understand that we have to spend more time in order to extract, contract, and understand the story that our data collection wants to tell. There is a story behind, and I also follow Greg's presentation. Yes, you have to start by cleaning up your data. You have to try to use classical techniques. You don't have to move directly to machine learning and advanced technique. The tools that we already have can provide you better results sometimes and faster. And also another lesson we have learned, and we are already there to integrate this information, that farm practices can also support us, because they can support us perform interpretation, and also we can use them as markers. This is very important for the estimation of the bare soil, and also the bare soil collection. That's another lesson we have learned. It's something really useful, and we can use it also in order to optimize the soil campaign. For phase 2, it's related to the modeling. It's logical somebody to say that, okay, if you have bigger areas, then you need to increase the number of the samples you have. But this is logical, but how? I mean, is there a way to do it? And how we can optimize that without losing the main competition point of Earth observation, which is related to the low cost. I mean, if we try to increase too much the sampling, the data we collect through the sampling campaign, at the end, we'll return back to the old practices. So that is a challenge if you try to develop a service. And one way to deal it is to use some modeling techniques that we already use. But another thing what we'll try to do, and it's the message I want to send today, it's related to how it is possible to reuse existing data, how it is possible to apply data sharing practices as a way to keep the cost as low as possible. And
Panos,
in
please
order to
mind the
increase,
time.
yes, okay. I will speed up, yes. And for phase 3, which is related to the modeling, I think the most important, lesson and what we have to do, and we have to work harder, is how to develop a business logic that is related to the CAP. The accuracy you need if you want to apply this service for smart farming is not the same if you want to do it for the CAP. If you want to have monitoring, you need to have higher accuracy. And right now we have seen that in smart farming, there's a clustering approach. Is it possible to apply this approach in monitoring? That's a question we have to reply back, to work together with LV. And also we have to package this service in a way that the farmers will understand the results and they will not need extra support for that. And the next step we have, it's related to the use of hyperspectral. This is not inside the Envision. Work more on the bare soil. This is very important, but also there are limitations. It's a discussion we're going to have in another probably workshop. Phase 2 about the markets and the farm management practices. We are there. We will try to use this information. And about the data sharing, this is very important. Another thing we have in mind is how we can apply federated AI, how it is possible not to share data, but to share models and scale up the service from regional level to European level. And it's also to use the carbon monitoring network that has been set up in Flanders. So it's possible to enrich and reuse this data set in order to provide higher accuracy. And another thing is to identify together what I explained with LV, how we can deliver the service, how we can deliver the modeling results in an understandable and friendly way for the farmers. So thank you, that's for me.
Thank you, Panos. Thank you for your presentation. Next presentation is from Emmanuel Lekakis from Agroapps Greece. Emmanuel, if you're ready.
Yes, can you hear me, Manolis?
Yes, we do not see your screen. Now we see you, yes.
Yes, of course.
Full screen if you can. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So this presentation will focus on the digital consultant application developed by Agroapps, and we decided to. This is not a commercial, of course, presentation. We decided to use the digital consultant of Agroapps because it is built on Earth observation technologies, GNSS technologies, and to see actually how the services that target farmers can use and exploit Earth observation data. So the digital consultant of Agroapps is an operational commercial platform providing a number of services for a holistic crop management approach. It addresses currently 6 crops: barley, wheat, vineyards, olive, cotton, and potato. And based on the crop type, different services that are built on Earth observation data are available to farmers. Most of them actually making a fusion of Earth observation and weather data. It has been applied by more than 900 users, mainly in Greece, and we address the needs of both agri-food companies, agricultural consultants, and of course, farmers, so they all use it. And from our experience, this type of applications are starting to be really, let's say, a part of their everyday processes. So this digital consultant is constantly updated with new crops. And of course, we in Agroapps try to incorporate new Earth observation data coming from UAVs, drones, coming from private satellite constellations to provide with further detail new vegetation indices and new algorithms, which are all stemming from research that is performed within Agroapps by our participation in research and development, national and European projects, and of course, new techniques and technologies that will serve the needs of our users. So the digital consultant actually has a number of services which most of them exploit Earth observation data. So it exploits optical satellite data to provide a continuous monitoring of the crop throughout the growing season. So We provide farmers and consultants with soil and vegetation spatial variability, detection of stress and pathology. And to tell you the truth, from our experience, farmers with keen eyes, let's say, farmers that are experienced also with this kind of applications, they can use them to detect different problems that may arise within the growing season. For example, we had a farmer that detected leakage from irrigation pipelines within the parcel, something that we have never thought about, that we have never thought of finding or detecting with Earth observation data. We use targeted vegetation indices for tree crops, for example, the alpha-chiamine or the carotenoid indices, which are targeted and focused on tree crops to detect pathology. And of course, senescence and maturity. We use Earth observation data to provide in-season fertilization based on the current NDVI and the current development of the crop. And we also use zones, vegetation zones, to support all kinds of fertilization, whether this be pre-plant or in-season fertilization. We do also a yield estimation, which is the yield estimation part, 1 month prior to harvest to provide them with the anticipated yield. And of course, qualitative characteristics, meaning, for example, let's say that we use the fusion of weather data and Earth observation data to provide the protein content of barley and wheat, which was a requirement coming from both a pasta company and a brewing company. Earth observation data are also used for tillage and irrigation scheduling. Why is that? Because the most important parameter for tillage and irrigation scheduling is, of course, the evapotranspiration. So we use the current development of crops. We exploit NDVI to calculate the crop coefficient, which is one of the most important factors, of course, to find, actually, to estimate the water taken up and also lost from the crop. So we apply a water balance model using the reference evapotranspiration and the crop evapotranspiration coming from satellite data to make an irrigation scheduling and the tillage scheduling. So we optimally calculate the crop coefficient, then we estimate the distribution of moisture within the parcel. We do a better, let's say, an optimal irrigation and tillage scheduling with the help of Earth observation data. And the platform, of course, can receive weather station data and soil moisture, and sensors installed in the soil for soil moisture recording. And then we improve, actually, the real-time soil moisture calculation. We also have a module of pests and diseases. Here we use models which actually simulate the biological cycle of pests and diseases. And we use the GNSS data. What do we use them for? We have also in situ, for example, in situ data coming in the platform. So we use the GNSS technologies in order to depict in the map areas that are hotspots, for example, areas that have different threats of pests or diseases, in order to show to the farmers that there may be possible threats around their farms. Next, we have a very, let's say, very user-friendly, with a very friendly user interface, crop calendar, which is used for the CO2 emissions per action. So in this module, we have incorporated a Tier 1 CO2 monitoring module. This module also uses Earth observation data, and of course GNSS data, because we use data from the soil, and of course the farmers are registering their operations through the crop calendar, and all these operations later are translated to different types of emissions. Of course, they are categorized in different types of emissions. Where do we use Earth observation data? We use, for example, the estimated with EO data yield to give a first approximation of the CO2 emissions per kilo of crops. And of course, we use it to estimate the CO2 emissions coming from the crop residues. And also we provide the year-to-year emission evaluation, which is very critical, especially for companies in order to make, and of course for farmers to be more compliant with, to observe the environmental performance of their farms. Finally, we have the weather forecast, and of course the nowcasting and forecasting, which is a very high analysis weather 2 by 2 kilometers in whole Greece. And of course, as I said previously, we can also use and exploit weather station data for to improve our nowcasting efforts. So this was all. Thank you very much, Manolis.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. Next presentation, I see Eric is ready. Next presentation is from Eric Sekia from IANRA. Please, Eric, you have the floor.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Manolis, giving me the opportunity. This work we did collectively in the NIVA project on the agro-environmental monitoring for the CAP. So our objectives were to propose some methods and to calculate some annual indicators in order to measure the impact of agricultural practices on the environment, based on the published scientific methods and formally projects, and based also on Sentinel-2 satellite data and other data widely available in Europe, like the IX data, climatic data, and eventually some data on farming practices. Following discussion with the European Commission and based on the preliminary selection of 13 candidate indicators, we decided to focus on carbon storage indicators, risks for nitrate lixiviation, and biodiversity, as those 3 indicators address 3 of the 9 CAP objectives. For each indicator, may be computed at various levels of complexity. Tier 1 approach, so the levels of complexity, we call that tiers. So the tier 1 approach, the results are easy to produce. The methods are rather operational, but they provide the less accurate estimates. Of course, tier 2 provide better results, but they are more difficult to produce since they require farmers' data. And both those two are based on the empirical approaches. And tier 3 provide best results, of course, but is less operational as it is based on modeling approaches. So first, concerning the carbon indicator, we developed the tier 1 method that is an empirical approach that can be applied to most crop species except rice. And the principle is that we use the IX data, so the plot contour and identification of the annual crop, and the Sentinel-2 images in order to map for each plot or pixel based on NDVI time series, what is the duration of the active vegetation. And then by using this empirical relationship between the number of days with active vegetation and net annual CO2 fluxes, that was established over a range of cropland sites equipped with flux towers in Europe, we can then estimate the net annual CO2 flux. We have developed a set of tools that are available at NIVA's GitLab. They were tested by several of our NIVA's partners in Spain and in Netherlands. And we were, for instance, able to produce annual maps over the whole Netherlands in 2018 with green plots showing you the ones that are fixing CO2 over the cropping year, while the red or orange ones are losing CO2. And we could also produce some statistics for each crop type of the net annual CO2 fluxes. That depends a lot on the duration of the soil coverage. For instance, it allows to identify the effect of cover crops. More recently, we coupled the NIVA's algorithms with the IOTA software, and with the support of CNES, we could produce a map, a 10-meter resolution of the France of net annual CO2 fluxes that is illustrating the spatial variability in this indicator, both among plots and within plots, that is caused by differences in soil properties and vegetation developments, for instance. Now we are in the phase of testing the tier 2 approach, which addresses carbon budget, meaning it estimates the changes in soil organic carbon stocks. So it is based also on an empirical approach and can be applied to most crop species except rice. as it uses the outputs of the tier 1 approach and combines it with data from the farmers related to the amount of carbon that has been exported at harvest, as grain, straw, for instance, and data relative to organic amendments. And by combining those information, we can then produce tier 2 maps, meaning annual carbon budget maps. And what is important to note is that the main limitation here is the access to reliable farmers' data. And I would just want to recall that here we're addressing the carbon budget, while monitoring of superficial soil organic carbon content do not provide information on the total soil organic carbon stock changed. Last, we have developed a modeling approach for estimating the annual carbon budget. So it's based on the SAFISU2 model that is embedded in the processing chain called AgriCarboneo, that uses meteorological data as inputs, IX data, and Sentinel images to produce leaf variant-based time series that are assimilated in the model to calibrate it. The model then can simulate yield, biomass, CO2 fluxes, and by using farmers' data on the organic amendments and straw exports, we can then produce annual carbon budget maps. And we use a large set of validation data for this approach that are based on different data sets. We were able to produce some maps at Sentinel-2 tides for in Southwest France. Here an example for straw cereals in 2018. So this is the net annual CO2 flux on the left, and other examples of the outputs, such as cover crop biomass and uncertainty, and even annual carbon budgets at 10-meter resolution of a farm in Southwest France. And you see in green here the maize fields preceded by cover crops that are storing carbon in general, and the wheat fields that are losing carbon. So now we are in the phase of multi-member testing of those tools at the plot scale, and we'll have the results in a couple of months. For the nitrate indicator, the principle, so it's based on some approaches that were developed in the Diver Impacts project. The principle is that we assess the risk for nitrate leaching based on the mineralization of the crop residues from the previous year and the capacity of absorption of the nitrate of the following crop and eventually of the catch crop in between. So to produce this indicator, we need IX data from the previous and the current year. And we use the Sentinel data in order to identify and quantify the development of cover crops to calculate the absorption of nitrate. And then we can produce maps at high resolution, like this example. And the tool is available at NIVA's GitLab also. And we had some testing phases in France and in Spain already. Last, I will present you the biodiversity indicators that were based on scientific papers and the farm project data. This indicator is calculated at the landscape level. It addresses multiple taxa and represents biodiversity potential. So the tier 1 approach is based on topographic data that allows us to map semi-natural elements in the landscape, and is based also on IX data that provide information on crop diversity and on the size of the parcels. The tier 2 approach that we will start to develop soon accounts for organic farming and on the types of agroecological infrastructures such as permanent grasslands and hedgerows. And the tier 3 approach will include some information on practices, especially on pesticides.
Please, Eric, mind the time.
I soon be finished. So I won't detail the methodology of this tier 1 biodiversity indicator, but we were able to produce some first maps at 1 kilometer grid resolution of these biodiversity indicators, as well as some validity maps. Next step will be to upscale that at the whole Sentinel-2 tile. And in conclusion, so we were, based on mainly open data and tools, we were able to produce 3 indicators with 3 levels of complexity, addressing 3 categories of environmental issues and ecosystem services. that are calculated at either pixel, plot, or landscape levels. Tier 1 is easy to implement at large scale and high resolution, but it lacks of accuracy as it does not account for some farmers' practices that may impact strongly the results, like organic fertilization, for instance. Tier 2 are more accurate. Technically, that's not so difficult to implement, but the main limitation here is really the access to reliable farmers' data. And Tier 3 offers a higher level of accuracy. It may provide us with additional indicator, but of course it needs also farmers' data, and the methods are less operational since, for instance, we need to parameterize each new crop in the model. So to conclude, an important message is that access to large-scale reliable data on farmers' practices are really needed for accurate CAP and agro-environmental monitoring. And that's why initiatives such as AgDataHub, Just Connect, or Joint Data are really interesting because they may solve those issues. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. You already have a question on the Q&As. We're jumping now to Athens virtually and to the National Observatory. I invite Mr. Vasilios Sitokonstantinou to present. Vasilios, please.
Yes, thank you. Hi. I guess you can see my screen.
Yes, full screen if you, yes.
Is full screen now?
I think it's coming. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So my name is Vasilis Sitokonstantinou. I'm a research associate at the National Observatory of Athens and the Beyond Center of Earth Observation Research. And today I will present a growth and data CAP to different web applications. They're both AI-enabled solutions to support resilient and sustainable agriculture. So a few words about the Beyond Center of Excellence and specifically the research group AgriHub within it. We have a large history and legacy in working in Earth observation-based agriculture monitoring, specifically involving machine learning on top of Earth observation data, and specifically in the thematic areas of monitoring of the Common Agricultural Policy, smart farming, agroecosystem services and climate change, and food security. So, as I said, we're a research institute, so we conduct research in these areas, but we go from science to applications. So the most mature solutions that we have, we take them to the user, we co-design them with the user, and today I will present two of those quite mature applications. So first we have a growth, which is a smart and resilient farming application and has been developed in the rest of the horizon. And then we have data CAP, which has a data cube in its core, and it's a service, it's a web application that helps the inspectors of the Common Agricultural Policy, is about the monitoring of the CAP, and has been supported by the Horizon 2020 projects Callisto and Envision. So let me start straight away with the data products, with the services. I'm starting with a growth. Here we see the optimal sowing date service for cotton. This is not part of the graphical user interface of AgRowth that I will show later, but it's under the umbrella of the AgRowth suite of services. And what we have here is we have a daily map that we provide directly. We integrated in the website of the user, the farmers' cooperatives in that case. So this way we have this direct, let's say, uptake by the user because they're using an already the website of the farmer cooperative with which they are already familiar with. And here, if I play the video, you can see that every single day we provide a new map. This is based on the forecast of ambient temperature and soil temperature for 2 and 10 days ahead. And based on that, we recommend with the green if sowing is actually recommended. And with the reddish colors, we say that most probably the farmer shouldn't sow at that particular date based on the weather forecasts. So moving on, So I'm not going to do a live demonstration, but you can visit the Agrowth web platform. It's agrowthbeyond.eocenter.eu, and there is a demo user that you can play with. This is how the starting screen looks like, and in the next slides, we're going to take a closer look to the various components that we see here. So when we select to a parcel that has been uploaded in the platform, we can see for that parcel today's temperature and tomorrow's temperature, and then we can press on this view detailed weather forecast button and get redirected to ResAgri, which is another platform that we have where we provide numerical predictions of weather and soil parameters at 2 by 2 kilometers. Of course, all of this information is provided at the parcel level. So everything is aggregated at the parcel level and provided to the user. We see here that we have a 10-day forecast and 2-day forecast. Here we show the air temperature at 2 meters, but we have many more other parameters like soil temperature, surface temperature, relative humidity, accumulated precipitation, etc. And this weather forecast and the anticipation of extreme weather events couples great with this next data product that we provide, which is the phenology estimation. So estimation of the growth status of the crop. For this particular case, we have it for cotton, and we plan to expand it to other crop types quite soon. So we see here that we have the 6 principal phenological stages, and this is for that parcel in particular, parcel 22, for example. And we see that we say the major phenological stage is leaf development, and it's 39% completed, that phenological stage that is. So we use major and minor categorization as well, because these 6 principal phenological stages are quite coarse, and we want to also see those fuzzy transitions between the different phenological stages as they interchange each other. So we also see that, and we can check for that particular, we also did field campaigns to train and validate our algorithms. And we see, for example, that leaf development 39% can be also, we can also see that in the photograph here, where we see it's in the beginning towards mid leaf development. And then another example here, we see 79% leaf development. And with the photograph, we see that we have moved towards the end or mid-end stage of that particular phenological stage. And here we see the yield estimation. So we provide a yield estimation for each parcel, and we also provide a confidence interval that is also predicted based on our models. And we can see here that, of course, this can be fine-tuned with more and more yield data, because it's never enough, and it's quite hard to attain kind of ground truth. But we see for the first one, we predicted 420, and the actual yield was 426. This is the case for most of the quite close, but we have cases like the second one where we predicted, for example, 400, and the final yield is 300. This is one of the most extreme differences we might have. But again, providing the confidence interval, we're quite closer to the lower end of this interval. And another example that works quite well, and I would say that overall what we have is a yield prediction that is either close to the actual value, or the confidence interval encompasses the actual value that we got at the end. And here we also see at the bottom figure how the phenological stages transition. This is a dynamic, let's say, plot. We see at the bottom the day of year, and we see how the minor and major phenological stages interchange each other as we progress during the cultivation season. So now I'm moving to the data cup application. What we see here, this is something that can be used by the inspector of the Common Agricultural Policy Paying Agency. We see we have the predicted crop type, the declared crop type. The user can show alerts only. This is when the declared crop type disagrees with the predicted crop type, for example, and can play with the confidence interval. This is what we and other colleagues called the traffic light system, play with this confidence of decision. And then the inspector can press this button, action verify, and get this visualization, play with the parameters of the visualization. So we have the parcel ID, we have the feature NDVI and many other Sentinel-2 and Sentinel-1 vegetation indices. We have the start and end date, and this is the buffer zone around the parcel, which is essentially the zoom in, zoom out for context that might be needed.
Vasilis, please speed up a bit.
Yes, will do. I have a couple of slides. Sorry. And yeah, we see here how we have this time series of Sentinel-2 images that the inspector can observe quite very easily with a press of a button and visualize it and take the decision of that. And another thing that we have, and I'm done with this one, we have street level images from the field. So what we do here is we take advantage of the trips that they do with their car, the inspectors, at a daily basis in any member state. So for example, this is with Cyprus, the paying agency of Cyprus, and we're taking advantage of the trips that the inspectors do daily. And we mount a camera on their car, so we take street level images to those agricultural roadways that they're going through. And we have mounted more than 150,000 images in less than half a cultivation season that we upload to the open crowdsourcing platform Mapillary, and we then provide it this way to the interface, to the DataCap interface to the user, where they can check for that particular parcel not only the Sentinel images and the time series, but also any available street level image that there is there, and they can see where the car was on the right. You can see here, and what is the parcel of interest, and they can use that in their decision process. And of course, all this data that we collect from the field and the street level images, we provide them freely to the community, to the artificial intelligence for Earth observation community as benchmark data sets to use them and take this thing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasilis. Thank you very much. You already have a question, so please go to the Q&As. Next presentation is from Mr. David Kolidjous from GeoVili Information Systems and Data Processing. David, if you're ready, please take the floor.
I think I'm ready, and I think my presentation should come any second. Very good. So I have 10 minutes, which is quite a few time, and I want to cover two big topics. So first of all, my name is David Kolidjous. I work for GeoVil, a company specialized in land monitoring solutions of all kinds. But we have a dedicated focus on agriculture now, and this is manifested in two, let's say, big activities or commitments. One of them is bringing value to the agri-food industry with a dedicated company, which is called Geo4A, which is based in the Netherlands, focusing on the potato market. So very specialized services here. And the other one, Gerd Ribnik already presented earlier, is the EWidget initiative, which we see as a checksum monitoring and area monitoring as a service concept, which we have already 2 years of countrywide demonstration. GeoVil, as I said, is in the game for more than 20 years, focusing on various aspects of land monitoring, covering all relevant aspects. But now with the dedicated focus on agriculture for the last 6-7 years or so. And the concrete outcome of this one is coming soon. So what do we understand of agriculture? And very often it's the monitoring of crop, but we all know, I think many of you have shown similar ideas, is monitoring of agriculture is way more than that. It's starting from a soil, which is becoming more and more crucial input for all kind of models. Then you might have water on top of the from heavy rainfall or so, and then there's still the moisture in the plants, which you need to monitor and might impact your measurements. And then there's actually the crop on top, and every parcel agricultural field is in a surrounding within vegetation in the environment. So this might, for example, be a shadowing effect of large trees next to a field, which you need to take into account. So this is a lot. It's not as simple as you might think, just monitoring fields. There's quite a different layers you need to take into account. The same we are talking about monitoring. This is over time from preparation of the soil, planting, emergent state until harvest, but might also cover preparations of soil and cover during the winter season. So, and the last fact is this is, well, likely you would go to really like a plant level observation. Well, with satellite data, we know there are limits to that, but you want to go down as far as possible. Then, of course, you have regional applications. And at the end, well, you also have for food security, we have applications where you need for like pan-European level scale. So this is how we see agriculture. This is always related to environment. And there's a monitoring timing aspect as well as a scale. And these are very different or has different challenges. So we're working on different aspects of that. One of them is covered by GFRA. It's based in Emmeloord in the Netherlands. It's the potato world capital, one of the surname of that city. And GFRA is really based on satellite-based insights into agriculture with the dedicated focus on the potato market. So as you see, there's a similar holistic approach, if you've seen before, meteorological data, but soil type data, which might be for maps, but might also be in situ measurements, sensor data, which is also, and also IoT data is becoming more and more crucial for these developments. We're writing down that leaf area index satellite data here. I think we are a bit underselling. For example, this is a potato-specific hybrid Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2 leaf area index that we are deploying. So for very many applications, the simple solution in CAP is working and can be used. But for other the applications, you might need to have a very specific one. Because, well, you're still a couple of hundred miles away from the ground. So it's still hard sometimes with satellite data. So here we're providing real insights in a very specific market, very specific products. And one of the lessons learned is also this company is not run by remote sensing Earth observation or data scientists. This is run by people from the potato industry, or former people working in the companies, having the connections, having the understanding of the business processes in the market. This makes all the difference. I want to stress in understanding and value in the product. What's the real implication? What are the mandatory requirements you need to meet? And also, how can you sell? What's actually the value? And which department within a company might see value in a product? This is really one of the lessons learned. Having people from the industry where you want to bring your product in is, I would say, an enabling step. So besides this very specific service, there's one simple one I'd like to show, because very companies and are willing to share data and go into the fields looking for sample data, in situ data. But even getting sample data, validation data is not as straightforward as you mean, because very few parcels are homogeneous. Most of them are very heterogeneous. So where and when you take your sample in the field has an impact on everything you do from that. So this service is simple, time series derived recommendation where to select a sample, because these companies are doing this anyhow, because they know the yield. But yield is not only for selling, but also for transportation. So how much storage do we need? So this is all has impacts further down the road. So if you advise them to get a more representative sample in the fields at the right time, this adds value and actually de-risking activities down the line as well. So a rather simple service compared to some of the AI services I've seen here, but is one of the, let's say, fundamentals you can improve easily with your data, and they have an impact down the road. That's why I'd like to share this one so much. The other one, yeah, we also see that the CAP market is one where your data is absolutely fundamental. And I think the product portfolio here is not that different to the other ones, and that's a good thing. So we know that we are on the right track, and we know that these products can serve the needs of the whole value chain and of the whole processing and decision logic. So identifying crops is mandatory. I think all the accuracy we have seen in the slides before, I mean, this seems to be working. So we all have seen good accuracies. I mean, and we are based in Austria, one of, let's say, topological, more challenging region, and we are also getting very good results here. And we're talking AI from, let's say, the basis. Also starting from like initiative sent for CAP, the crop type is often the only one where we actually have artificial intelligence solutions. The other one are very often based on more simple logical decisions, and this seems to be working as well. So also confirmed by various speakers today. There's the products, how we deliver them. We say this is going away from delivering infrastructure or toolbox into as a service concept. This has also been taken up very nicely. This can be outsourced by paying agencies, delivered via dedicated APIs. This is done now in season because we're talking about monitoring. So I think monthly updates are kind of reflecting that. This is also all the procedures to get the declaration data updated every month, to get the products configured and uploaded into the IX system of the paying agency. This is, let's say, a technical barrier that you need to take, and this has been proven to be successful. We have a 2-year full beta operation, so this is has been proven to work, and we're also monitoring over the 2022 season ongoing.
David, if you can speed up.
Yes, I will speed up. The big thing is also, of course, we need to work on the quality. And so we have developed various quality tools and reports for each product that we show. And Arma is very nicely dedicating a lot of that time on collecting more and more in situ data to further progress on the steps. And we're making good progress here. This is a slide you can have a look at later. It's the basis for each product, but I think most of them have been shown in a similar way. As I said, I think that's a good conclusion that these seems to be working. I'd just like to show this figure that the quality aspects of all these is the one we put a dedicated focus on. The F1 scores for accuracies of a crop type map, I think, are above 90% for most presentations I've seen. But this is where you can see the value and the statistical input of these products. And by that, I have 2 more slides. One is on the outlook. Of course, these main products are necessary, but as we have also been confirmed today, the look for imperviousness, change, or homogeneity products as part of the area monitoring system will be have higher priority and will be mandatory by 2023. So this one will be part of our product portfolio quite soon as well. I think these are developed and adapted and can match the criteria of the customers. By that, I'd like to finish, and just a couple of references to the project webpage, but also the public demo where we see all this visualized in the expert judgment tool, which EOX is providing. So here also again mentioning Gerhard Riebnick's first presentation. And by that, I'd like to thank you. And
thank you, David. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. You have already a question, so please check it out. We have reached the end of the 3rd session. So now for a future outlook, it is the turn of the European Space Agency. And I'd like to invite Mr. Zoltan Zantoi to get the floor. Mr. Zantoi, please.
I believe I'm online, and hopefully you hear me. And
yes, perfectly.
Daniel is sharing my presentation as I had some issues with the sharing. Thank you, Daniel.
It's perfect.
So, dear participants, it is my true and real pleasure to be here and present on behalf of the European Space Agency. My name is Zoltan Zantoi, and I'm a land application scientist in the Science, Application and Climate department. So in the following, I will try to emphasize the need and the role of Earth observation. We've seen many already in the agricultural domain in general, and also trying to focus a little bit on the common agricultural policy in particular. Next slide, please, Daniel. So first, let's take a quick look at where we are in terms of numbers. We know that the global population will continue to increase, the demand for food as well, of course, and the demand for quality food especially. So I think farmers has a major role here, what we should consider. So, and agriculture occupies nearly 50% of the Earth habitable land and has over 500 million farms globally. But as well as we have around 10 million farms in the EU. So agriculture is a very important sector, not only for food security, but also for jobs and water management. And unfortunately, it also plays a role as a polluter and a greenhouse gas emissory. So as you can see, there are many challenges that the sector faces. And just to name a few, from climate change to some which we might not consider very important, but to pull or keep young people engaged. On the other hand, Earth observation can help the sector with data and techniques to overcome many of these challenges. I just mentioned the need to pull youngsters in. So what is cooler than playing with the computer, smartphones, and with the data through applications that hopefully we and you guys will develop. Next slide, please. Then, of course, we have the CAP from the government side, but we also have the farmer side, as I already mentioned. As you can see, I listed several requirements for both sides, where the main points of the new CAP are the fairer, greener, and more performance-based support, and the proper, accurate monitoring of it. While the farmers have their own requirements, of course, first and foremost is saving time and money. So these can be achieved through various applications based on Earth observation data, as many of you already showed, like proper planning of seeding and harvesting, yield prediction, or detecting pests and diseases, just to mention a few. Next slide, please. So how ESA can help? First, I would like to dig into the Earth observation part before talking about projects. So within our 3 flagship programs, Science, Copernicus, and Meteorology, we managed in the past and currently about 80 satellites. Don't count them. I think all of them are in there. And more are, of course, in the pipeline. And on the top of that, many, or in fact, most of the newcomers meaning new satellites, are very relevant for agriculture. And I will show a few of them in the next slides. Next one, please. But first, let's just talk a very little bit about the Sentinel missions, as they are the cornerstones of our program, especially, of course, Sentinel-1 and 2. We heard a lot about Sentinel-2 here. I would encourage you to also look into the Sentinel-1, the radar data. So both are directly linked to agriculture, among, of course, other applications. So again, I don't want to spend too much time or details here, as you guys are very familiar with them. But most importantly, that they have a high spatial resolution at around 10 meters for the radar, and both for the radar and the optical sensors, and relatively high resolution data about every 5 days, if you consider the constellations, which are, of course, very important for timely agricultural applications. One more thing I would like to mention here is that at ESA, we even have a demonstration project called Send2Like. This is in collaboration with the Commission, where we harmonize Sentinel-2 and Landsat 8, or in the very near future, 9 data, again at 10 meters spatial resolution, to even get higher temporal coverage. Next slide, please. Sometimes the third-party missions are a little bit behind in terms of knowledge, or people know about them, but we also supply data from over 50 so-called third-party missions, which can be, of course, used for agricultural activities. I would definitely encourage all of you to look at them and consider them at least for a trial phase. And here I would especially mention some of the newer additions, such as ICEYE, which is, of course, a European startup providing very high resolution radar data, or also the high spatial resolution optical data from Planet. But again, there are many that we can consider here. Landsat is somewhere in the list as well, among some of the others. Next slide, please, Daniel. So I already mentioned the upcoming satellites, and here I would like to introduce 3 particular ones: the LSTM mission, CHIME, and the ROSE missions. Just go quickly to the next slide, and I will say a few more words about each of these missions. So the LSTM stands for the Copernicus Land Surface Temperature Monitoring Mission. One of the most important aims of this upcoming mission is to help improve sustainable agricultural productivity at the field scale, through mainly focusing on water resource management, but of course, other applications which related to surface temperature are playing a role here as well. Look at the planned revisit time. This is at 1 to 3 days. Perhaps over Europe, it's going to be around 1 day, which is again very timely for many agricultural applications. Next slide, please. Now, the next mission is the Copernicus Hyperspectral Imaging mission for the environment, or as a short version, CHIME. So the missions hyperspectral sensor will help sustainable agricultural and biodiversity management, as well as soil property characterization. We heard many projects built on soil property through the previous presentations. And please note that the high spatial resolution hyperspectral missions are still relatively rare, especially if we are talking about free and open access. Of course, you see for LSTM and also for CHIME, and even for the next slide, we can go already. The upcoming dates are for these sensors are still a little bit ahead, but I will have a one-line note on that just in a second. So the last mission I would like to introduce is ROSE-L, which will provide L-band radar data. Sentinel-1 has C-band, so we are focusing on L-band here. And such data can have discriminating actually crop types for precision farming and food security, as well as to monitor soil moisture, among other applications. Now, I said that I want to mention something that I shown these upcoming missions, but of course they are a little bit ahead, so they will come in 2027, 2028. However, we have these are many so-called precursor activities, meaning that some of the potential future users would like to test similar data what these sensors or satellites will provide. Those might be available from other currently categorized third-party missions. So if some of these are of interest to the community here, please contact ESA, me, and we see how we can work with you on that. Now, next slide, please. So how a remotely sensed agricultural field can look like. Of course, we've seen many examples before, but here I just try to show your options in terms of building a system partially or fully, where all kind of sensors can be present, from ground-based and ground-collected data, such as regular RGB photographs or through handheld spectrophotometers, but to others, such as airborne instruments through the so-called high-altitude pseudo-satellites, or HAPS, which are also in ESA's current focus. So we might have that kind of data which we could work with you. And of course, such satellites such as the Copernicus and the Galileo constellations. Of course, don't forget about positioning data. Then eventually all this data can be transferred into a system like the one I want to show on the next slide, please. So here we can see one possible technology workflow where a cloud computing system can do the aggregation, such as processing and analysis, for example, with artificial intelligence. Again, not only, and I agree with the previous colleagues who mentioned that not everything can be, or the best option to solve with artificial intelligence. But again, once we have analyzed the data, either through artificial intelligence or some relatively more basic procedures, products such as pesticides warning, growth or yield estimation can go into a user accessible application. Just one click here, Dania, please. I will have something to pop up. Or just hit maybe just next. Let's try the next slide, please, and see what will come up. Okay, here, yeah, perfect. Since I just mentioned artificial intelligence, here is an example. This is coming from our JRC colleagues, how many different agriculture-related applications we can consider, starting from, well, if I can say, traditional AI applications such as crop yield estimation through plant disease detection, but also we can think about to advise farmers based on the collected data, what we get through all the sensors we are working with. Next slide, please. Now I will show some of our work we do in the agricultural domain in the following slides. Of course, one of our flagship projects, which is closely connected to the CAP, is the SEM4 CAP. And I am super pleased to see that there are many references here built on or connected to the system. So throughout the project, we built a system which can provide near real-time information relevant to the current, and very importantly, as well as to the new CAP. So we provide validated algorithms, products, workflows, and best practices for the CAP management, of course, based on Sentinel data. Just to mention a few user cases where we work with the national paying agencies which are of course important for the for the CAP, and through the CAP, the national paying agencies are, for example, crop diversification monitoring, grassland identification, fallow land monitoring, among others, which again, the national paying agencies are very interested in. The good news is that the project is still on, and they are currently working with new user cases relevant again to the national paying agencies and to the new CAP. Thank you. Next slide. Here I would like to present other ESA supported projects. We also think that they are very relevant to the, well, definitely for agriculture, but to the CAP as well. I would especially want to call your attention to the Sen4Stat, World Cereal, and World Soils projects. Through the Sen4Stat project, we are developing workflows based on the Sentinel missions to support agricultural statistics that can be integrated into the National Statistical Office's environment. In the World Cereal project, we are developing an efficient, agile, and robust Earth observation-based system. Here, again, you're working mainly with the Sentinel, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, a little bit of Landsat as well, for timely global crop monitoring at a field scale, so at a 10-meter spatial resolution. Currently focusing on maize and wheat. We are also investigating barley, plus the discrimination of irrigated and non-irrigated areas. Please stay tuned, and I will be updating. No, get back. Yeah, thanks, sorry. I wanted to mention the World Soils project, where we aim to develop a pre-operational soil monitoring system to provide yearly estimations of soil organic carbon. Again, this is at the global scale, which is at 100-meter level. However, for the European scale, we will be providing data at a 50-meter scale. And here we are exploiting Sentinel data, leveraging, of course, on large soil data archives and modeling techniques. Again, I see many projects during this morning connected to all these ongoing projects. And if you see synergies, please do not hesitate to contact me. I will be very happy to follow up direct to some of these projects or discuss some of the future upcoming projects, which we can see on the next slide, for example. Next slide, Dania, thanks. So one of our current and very exciting projects we have is the Pioneer Earth Observation Applications for the Environment or people. So this is where ESA is going in terms of continuing the support for the CAP and for the new CAP. This is one project which we hope to support these activities. Here we aim to develop innovative, high-quality Earth observation-based products, indicators, methods, tools, and services targeting specific high-priority research and development areas raised by the International Environmental Policy Agenda, but also by the European Commission, and it's very related to the European Union's Green Deal. So the present activity consists of 4 parallel and independent projects: sustainable blue economy, ecosystem accounting, ecosystem restoration, and one which is very, very directly related to this workshop or this conference here, titled The New CAP and Agricultural Eco-Schemes, because this was already drawn from the new CAP, and we worked very closely with our European Commission partners, DG Agri, DG JRC, and the European Environmental Agency to formulate this call. The people project are to be considered as pathfinder actions, essential to prepare the future roadmap for subsequent projects with a larger deployment in terms of both the geographical region, but as well as the user communities. Next slide, please, Daniel. Well, my next slide is my thank you slide, and thank you very much for your attention. And I really appreciate all the presentations here. I learn a lot. So I'm happy to hear that you will be sharing all the presentations, Daniel. And as I mentioned, please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any question, including various data access. And I support many of our colleagues previously mentioned that please share your data, and not only Earth observation data, but the ground data as well. Thanks again, and looking forward to the chat.
Thank you, Mr. Zantoi, for the interesting indeed presentation. Now I will pass the floor to Mrs. Ifigenia Tsiutsia from AgroApps and to Mr. Volkwin Polman from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency to address some closing remarks and discussion. If you are ready, Ifigenia and Volkwin.
Yes, I'm ready. So, and I also think Evgenia is ready. So, yeah, so given the time, so I think we should keep it short, but well, there's no room for an extensive discussion, although I see a lot of lively discussion also in the chat already about what the right skill should be. I think it definitely would depend on the topic, on the way you use it for, but I think it's something that might be of interest for a future webinar. But yeah, I think it would be interesting also to hear the reflection of the policy office from both Envision and from NIVA. So maybe Erwin Goor, maybe I can give you the floor first.
Yes, thank you. So indeed, it was very interesting. What should I add? So I was very pleased to see from, so as you said, I'm following Envision, but as well eShape. I was very pleased to see really a lot of exploitable results, and not only products, but as well the tools, the apps, the add-on development tools, as Envision, for example, is showing, which clearly is something, is clearly assets that you should further, that give you a lot of potential to work further on. And in this aspect, I want you to draw attention on three specific things. First of all, you all know, of course, about Horizon Europe. For the first project the first grant agreements are being prepared, resulting from the call from 2021, and especially in Cluster 6, Destination 7, which is on innovative governance, environmental observations, and digital solutions for the Green Deal call. There were very interesting topics where now we are starting with the projects, which are really for you, I think, very interesting to look for further exploitation. There are some on, for example, assessing impacts of digital technologies in agriculture, looking at cost, benefits, potential, also looking to the deepening of innovation support. So I think what you, NIVA, Envision, and all the other projects presented today showed can have potential there. And as these projects are always looking about what is existing in the ecosystem, I would say it's clearly relevant for you to team up. So it's expected that these projects are going to start around the summer, maybe before, maybe just after. So keep an eye on it and try to link with these. Secondly, of course, there's as well a EuroGeo, so led by DG RTD. Where we build further on Copernicus, but here as well we had some interesting topics in Horizon Europe last year, which will as well start in the summer. For example, working on the exploitation of EO data, more also looking at machine learning, artificial intelligence, the use of the available platforms. So here as well, I think there is certainly potential for you to team up with, because it's clear. I mean, what I heard about today is that EO is a great asset, but it should of course be low cost, and looking at what platforms are available and what support for machine learning are available and what is to become here in the next future, in the next years, is certainly relevant for you. And lastly, there's as well the upcoming partnership for agriculture of data. It's not fully there, it's being developed, but it's also something that you should follow, of course. It's likely to become more let's say, being implemented in 23, 24, but it's still being developed. So if you are not in the loop of the partnership of Horizon Europe partnership of agricultural data, certainly take contact with us and come into contact with the relevant policy officers, which are Doris Markaert from DG Agri and Marianne van Meerlof from DG RTD. So with this, I would like to end my intervention. Thank you for this interesting before noon.
Okay, thank you. Very good points to hear. So, Lara, do you have anything to add to that one?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks to everybody. I am the colleague of Erwin. I don't have so much to add. I mean, it has been really a great occasion, an amazing learning journey. And it has been very interesting to see how excellent your projects are in achieving the policy priorities and the objectives of the Green Deal, the Common Agriculture Policy, and at a wider perspective, climate change issues in agriculture. What can I say? I think that anyway, digital transformation and new technologies, digitalization, along with the effective and efficient use of data, evidence, and information stemming from environmental observation, earth and the ground in situ, can really play a pivotal role in order to shape new technologies and new techniques to better manage natural resources, even the use of chemicals toward a more sustainable and regenerative agriculture. And you all are working in this direction. This is great. We need it. And this will allow also a sound common agriculture policy, implementation and use. But not only, all these, all your concrete applications will for sure be the occasion to provide support services to farmers and to policymakers, added value services in the scenario of climate change. So also supplying with the climate adaptation technologies and applications. And this is fundamental to grant food safety, but also food security, both, I think so. And what I would like to do, I would like to encourage you to liaise, to network with each other, to create synergies in order to avoid overlapping, to do benchmarking, and to create added value collaborations to additionally contribute to our policy and project management objectives. So thanks to all of you for the great job, and I wish you a great continuation.
Thank you, Lara, for your kind words. So I think there's definitely one mission for all of us to further liaise, and I think this is a good start. So I don't know if you have any points left, Evgenia.
No, I just want to thank you all for participating in this clustering event. I'm more than happy to see that there are a lot of opportunities for collaborative synergies in order to enhance the common vision that all the projects and all the participants have here, in order to better facilitate the introduction of the new CAP into practice. And more than happy to find synergies and collaborate with not all of you, but most of you. Let's say that we can see you and contact you directly in order to see what we can do.
Okay, maybe some closing words for you, Daniel, because I think you are one of the driving forces behind this event. So.
Thanks a lot. Well, it was an interesting organization, and I think that we managed to get very interesting speakers and attendees on board. I'm really happy to see almost were more than 300 registered organizations and people. And the meeting you all, of course, is a great deal. Of course, we would like to do it in person as a live event, but hopefully this will happen sometimes in the near future. So thanks a lot for all your contributions, and also to attendees. I have been following the chat and the Q&A session. It was really nice discussion. So expect the presentations and video to be sent to all the attendees through email, and we will also include the Q&A session so you can read all your questions and answers. It was really a privilege. Thanks a lot to everybody, and stay safe in these times. Looking forward to meet you next time.
Thank you all. Many thanks to everybody.
Thank
Special
you.
thanks to Mrs. Holsten, Mr. Evergor, and Konju Lara. Thanks to all the speakers for the very interesting presentations. And we're looking forward to meet you again in future clustering events. Stay happy, stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.